Tell me about the transition into traditional Chinese medicine. What was that like coming from a traditional Western medical science background?
I think it was incredible, just in the story I told, with regards to staying healthy and paying a practitioner. And so I think it appealed to me. And if you sort of summarize who I am, it's a word freedom. And I think it's just something that I've held on to, is just freedom from disease and sickness and freedom from enslavement. And that sort of echoes the kingdom of breaking free from a lot of things. So
Yes,
yeah,
walking in freedom. Yeah.
yeah. And so that's what it is. It's about giving people freedom, and freedom from, and if I look at crypto and I look at big banks and big agriculture and big food and big pharma,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to get enslaved to any of these systems. And so, yeah, that's how it happened. And I think I've always been one to have a look at, I don't want to actually give any control or any authority over my health or my finances to anyone. And so, yeah, it started from that birth of freedom.
One of the things that fascinates me about Chinese medicine is it's so different from the reductionistic Western medical scientific mindset, and the
Yeah.
mechanism that the mechanistic approach is so ingrained in Western science and medicine now, which I think is a shame. And it's not that there's certainly vitalistic. And for people who don't know what these words mean, basically in the Western scientific culture, if you will, uh, really people became enamored of reductionism. We're going to change one variable and see what that does. And that's great if you're asking very specific questions like, how much potassium should we put on the corn to make it grow taller? Or, what type of fuel additive should we put in the diesel engine to make it run cleaner? But, I had a residency, a teacher in residency who said, people are messy. And what he meant by that was that you cannot control all these variables. That life is an incredibly dynamic system. And one of the best books on Chinese medicine I've ever read, The Web That Has No Weaver by Ted Kaptchuk. Yeah. He impresses in the first section of the book about how the Chinese view of health is much more like looking at a landscape. You can't reduce the landscape. I got interested in Chinese medicine coming out of environmental health and medicine in my undergraduate studies. I took ecology by accident, and I think it was absolute destiny, because ecology changed the way I looked at health and wellness forever, and gave me some foundational lessons that ended up shaping the way that I look at health and disease and my clinical practice. But one of the things that they impress upon you is you can't look at these variables in isolation, because there's synergy and antagonism, and there's complex dynamics that, giving someone vitamin C, magnesium, and ashwagandha all at the same time is not the same as giving them each individually, right? And it really defies any attempt at reductionism. So when I say reductionistic and mechanistic, what I'm really talking about, this attempt to try and modify or shape one variable at a time, whereas vitalism is much more about, and really a non-reductionistic way of thinking, a holistic way of thinking is much more about, well, we can't view these things in isolation, so why bother? What works in this, in its totality, if we do it all at the same time? So anyway, that's some background for listeners who may not be deep into this. But Steve, I'm really curious to hear what your experiences were with Chinese medicine and what you found so helpful about it.
Yeah, I think there's so many tenets to Chinese medicine, and we could run numerous classes and podcasts on this. But I think for me, the greatest thing, if you just had to sort of summarize it, is this thing of homeostasis. Before I even studied functional medicine, and so there's just so many different parts of balancing the system. And like you said, it's not just one variable; it's multiple variables in terms of how it works. So before I even knew about functional medicine, I've always looked at balancing the organism, in all different areas, whether it's the liver, whether it's the kidney, and knowing the difference between liver, yin, and how important that is, and where it opens up in. So someone who's got, let's just take a simple example, dry eyes. And so you look at a root cause and look at their liver and how important that is. So it was this balancing of the system that made me a lot more aware, and how there's internal pathways and external pathways. So someone gets angry and it affects the liver, which affects your eyes. There's just so many different ways you can have disharmony in the system. And so it's this emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical world that are totally meshed, that are separate but connected. And I think that was fundamentally important for me. We in Western medicine or in Western culture we talk about someone who's hot-headed. Well, what does that mean? That comes from too much heat in the system. And where's that heat coming from? Is it coming from heart fire or liver fire? How do we get that down? What is causing the fire? Is it coming from lack of moisture? So it's this interconnectedness of trying to work out where the instabilities are, where the imbalances are, and to strengthen those systems as best as we can. And so, that's what I've loved, and even using some modalities to help me improve. Let's talk about yin, the yin, which can be moisture in oil and water. And how do we do that? So like we spoke previously on the podcast about omega-3s. Omega-3s for me have been real quality, have been incredible for someone who's yin deficient. Incredible. It's changed my practice, my patients, my clients at the right dosage. Because when they've got a liver yin deficiency, and I can improve that with Chinese medicine, I can improve that with Western supplements. So you start making these connections in all the different places, which I think has been really, really helpful for me to take Chinese medicine and use it in combination with functional medicine.